monster. I've got over 2 million subscribers on YouTube. I also do stream on Caffeine all the time. So I've been doing this whole streaming career, content creation for about 4 years now. So I feel like I've got a good, good experiences here to talk about and, talk with you guys about my experiences and my advice to fellow up-and-coming streamers who are ready to take the streaming world and destroy it. So let's do that. But traditionally, the first thing people think about when they think of monetizing is, I think, mainly just ad revenue. But there's so many more ways to actually monetize your streams and yourself as a streamer. And that's what we're going to be going over today. Obviously, all the possibilities that you can do with streaming as a career. So we're going to be talking about a lot of things throughout this whole entire episode here today. The main thing I think is the do's and the don'ts, going over things, what to make sure you do if you are going to be successful in streaming and now that you are a pro, and also the things that you need to avoid. So things that you can make sure you not do if you want to obviously build your brand as a successful streamer and make it a career. Also going to be talking about the different kind of ways to monetize. Like I said, most people just think the easy way that people make money on streaming is just through ad revenue, but there's so many more ways to actually make money in this industry, and it's growing every single day. So there's just even more to talk about there as well. And also we're going to be talking about building a schedule that will help build your streams and obviously keep the revenue flow consistent, because a schedule is very, very key and all this stuff. So a lot of good stuff to talk about today in this episode, going over everything with streaming and all the different revenue aspects of it, and because there is more than meets the eye. So let's jump into it.
Let's pull the mic
a little bit closer.
So let's just right off the top, how long you been streaming?
So I've been streaming for around 2.5 years. Nice. 2.5 years. So.
2.5 years. And what games do you kind of like? Are you gaming? Are you like IRLing? Like what do you do personally?
So I'm mainly right now doing Fortnite streaming. So I'm playing Fortnite. That's kind of like the game that's really popular right there, and I still enjoying. Before I did Fortnite, I did Call of Duty. So I did Call of Duty and then switched over to Fortnite once that came out, and now Fortnite's still doing really well. So I'm still tackling that. But yeah, mainly gaming. I'll occasionally do some in real life stuff as well. In content creation, but yeah, gaming and in real life is kind of my main two areas of expertise.
Total tangent, but how do you feel about the new Call of Duty, by the way?
The new Call of Duty, I think it's all right. I think it's a step back in the right direction. I know Call of Duty's been taking, I don't know, they've had some bad titles recently, in my opinion, but I think this year is a step in the positive direction. I think they still got a lot of work to go, but I think they're starting to actually, step up their game, because they kind of have to. I feel like with all these games and everything evolving, Call of Duty just didn't for a while, and now they're starting to realize that they have to adapt, and that's exactly what they're starting to do in this new Call of Duty. So
shout out to everybody in the chat, by the way. iTank Kid says Pack-a-Puncher, what up? If you guys have any questions in the chat, make sure to throw them in there, and then we're gonna have a Q&A later in the stream, so to answer all your questions regarding streaming. So make sure to leave your question in the chat, and we'll get to that in a bit. But from there, let's use the code Pack-a-Puncher.
Classic.
Panda Gaming Y2200. Thank you for including that in there as well. But yeah, let's move into breaking it down. All right.
All right, so breaking it down, kind of what we're going to go over. So basically, we're going to be breaking it down in this episode, going over a lot of different things on how to monetize your streams. Now that you've made your stream, you've established your goal of what you want to do. Now taking it to the next step. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the do's and the don'ts, the things you need to make sure you do throughout your streaming, and making sure you're hitting those notes and absolutely doing them. And also the things that you definitely should not do. Make sure to avoid them if you are pursuing this streaming career, for sure. Also, we're going to be talking about the different ways to monetize. Like I said, there's so many ways to monetize in today's technology era. That's not just an ad revenue. There's so many more forms to make money these days, and that list is growing more and more by the day. So we'll be sure to talk about those in this episode as well, and also building a schedule that will help your growth and revenue stay consistent, because having a schedule is very key to a successful brand. So we'll be talking about how important that is as well. So a lot of interesting things to talk about today in terms of the whole monetization of streaming as a career and everything associated with it. So.
All right, great. So I think these are all key talking points that are definitely going to help any type of brand new streamer, somebody who kind of wants to take the next step into streaming. So let's break these talking points down. So number one, obviously there's do's and don'ts to streaming. What do you think is like some of the do's, some of the things that you really, really, really need to make sure that you're incorporating into your stream in order to kind of progress it into the next level?
I think my main thing for like the thing you need to do and to really go for the next level is just at the end of the day, be honest and be yourself, because that's so important in this world. You don't want to, a lot of people out there will have a fake persona, but like being true to yourself is going to make it so much easier in the long run for you, because you don't have to be two different people, and you can just really just be true to your audience. And obviously having that connection with a community is very, very important. And this is your brand at the end of the day, and so you need to make it about you and keep it, obviously be transparent. So I feel like definitely, streaming on Caffeine as well, having the honesty with the viewers and being transparent is definitely one of the reasons I love streaming on there, is because the community is so involved and so, I guess, connected with myself, because I always do my best to stay true to myself and be myself when streaming, and obviously being honest with the viewers. So I think definitely just being yourself, not being afraid to put yourself out there is a do you should do when streaming. So.
Yeah, I think that's especially important too, because I think it's like, I mean, the audience, especially everybody's audience is out there, no matter what platform you're on. I really think people know when somebody is like playing a character.
Yeah, they can tell.
They can tell. Like,
and people are getting smarter too. So like they know, and it's like it's just best to just be yourself and just, don't be afraid of that.
Grat the Rat. Yes, this is a Caffeine exclusive. Welcome to the stream. But what are some other do's, do you think?
I think being mindful that, I guess being mindful there's other ways of reaching your audiences. An audience of having your people can be across many different platforms. So I think plugging your socials, your multiple social medias across platforms is really smart. And that's just a good way to get people knowing. So, I mean, don't be afraid to during your stream to kind of, promote yourself, because it is your stream at the end of the day, and you do want to let people know. And if people are enjoying your content, don't be afraid to say, hey, I've got a Twitter, I've got an Instagram, go check it out, because there's a chance that these people are really enjoying it, but they don't know about that stuff yet. So not being afraid to plug that out, your social medias and stuff, and of course using your social media to your advantage is really smart as well. Personally, I use Twitter the most. Twitter is definitely a good social media that I use. Pretty much every time I go live on Caffeine, I tweet out on Twitter saying, hey, I'm going live on Caffeine, whatever. And then I'll also sometimes use an Instagram swipe up story. I think the swipe up stories on Instagram are pretty good as well, just because Instagram reaches a really big audience of people. I feel like Instagram is one of the most popular apps on people's phones these days. So Instagram, Twitter, I think are my main social medias that I use. But I mean, activating all the social medias you can is always smart, because you're always reaching more and more people, which will obviously drive them to your stream, which will create a larger community and obviously just better things overall.
So those are some great do's. What are the don'ts?
Yeah, so the don'ts when streaming, and like you just don't avoid this at all costs. And I mean, I think for me personally, the first point I want to talk about is consider being brand friendly, because that's definitely one thing that'll help you out in the long run. I myself, growing up, never really used curse words a lot. And once I got into streaming and YouTube, I just said to myself, I'm just never going to do that, because I know there's, you never know who's watching. And also a lot of brands, I mean, they want to work with people who are, fun to work with, and also like brand friendly associated, where they can touch on all different things. So, I mean, obviously being brand friendly is smart. Don't jeopardize your brand potential when you could not be doing it. So just trying to, keep it available for all ages is definitely a smart move, because there's a lot of audiences out there. And, nowadays with a lot of the younger people in today's society, where you have 8 and 9 year olds getting brand new iPhones for Christmas, which blows my mind, but that's just how it is. And these people are getting these phones and these social medias where they can watch these live streams. So being brand friendly, being available, I think for all ages is just really smart, and it helps your audience diverse as well too. So that's one of the things I'd say don't do is be too vulgar and not brand friendly, because it'll just hurt you in the long run. So.
Grat the Rat, by the way, that question in chat, we're going to add that to the Q&A later, so stay tuned, and we'll make sure to answer your question exactly on that, how to get into brand deals, because that's actually really important. That's probably something that we can shed some light on.
Definitely.
What are some other don'ts, do you think?
Another don't, I think, for literally all streamers, whether you're just starting your stream off or you are a pro streamer, is don't give up. How life works, there's ups, there's downs, there's highs, there's lows, and you got to just stick stick through it, because that's just how it works. So don't give up, and just push through it. I know myself as a streamer, I've been doing this for 4 years total of content creation, and there's been times where I'm just like, do I really want to keep doing this? And then I'm obviously so glad I did, because if I would have given up, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So push through that. Know that there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. There's going to be a high coming soon. It is a very, very important thing to avoid, just to don't give up. I mean, I know there was a pivotal time my senior year of high school where I really had to focus on getting grades for school. Really had to. I also made the varsity basketball team, so I had a lot of things going on in my life, and YouTube just wasn't going, or wasn't going the way I wanted. So I was thinking, do I even want to do this anymore? Is it even worth my time? And I heard from someone else say, stick through it, don't give up, and listening to that advice was obviously amazing, because it kept me still doing what I love, and now I'm obviously doing this as a full-time career. And those two other things really don't matter as much. So it's just, you got to stick through it, because there are highs and lows, and that's just how it works. So don't give up on yourself.
Great. So let's go into our second talking point now. Obviously, you're saying there's different methods of monetization on the internet, and especially in the live streaming world. Obviously, ads, you know what I mean? You go on every single website, you'll see an ad banner. If you click on that ad, if somebody watches your ad, you get a little piece of money, and the more and more people see that ad, the more money you get. Everything's cut and dry. Everybody kind of knows this side of making money on the internet. But in live streaming, there's so many other ways that people might not know about. Can you shed some light on those?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many more ways to make money throughout live stream, rather than just the normal plain ad revenue that you get from clicking on an advertisement that most people do. And some sites these days don't even have the advertisers on the ad revenue, so that's the whole other element. I know Caffeine right now doesn't have that stuff, but they have other ways to make money, such as I know on Caffeine they have the digital item system, which is basically a way to kind of donate in real life money, transfer it into this digital currency on Caffeine, and send it to your favorite streamer. And obviously they're getting a cut of that money as a revenue share. So it's kind of a way to support your favorite person, your streamer, in terms of that. So that's obviously a thing. I know other streaming platforms have tier membership things where you can kind of come back, in subscription based models where it's a way where you will pay a certain amount of money each month to the streamer, and they're going to get a cut of that, and you're going to have that each and every month. It's kind of like a subscription you have to them. So that's definitely a really common thing in the streaming world, is having that, I guess, consistency as well. And it also keeps your viewers coming back. I think having utilizing those longer memberships where it definitely behooves you to keep them going for as long as you can, because people want to have they want to say, like, I've been subscribed for a year straight, or I've been doing the subscription for 6 months now. I think that's also a really good way. So utilizing that, all those platform purchases are really smart as well. And I think for me personally speaking, from revenue as well, I think this is where I'm definitely a little bit different in terms of other YouTubers and stuff with my career, is the donations. And I think donations are a huge part of your live streaming business. And I know for me, especially being like a brand friendly streamer that really tries to just be honest with my audience, kind of like I mentioned before, I think for me, with my overall kind of revenue, I've probably made 60% of all my income from donations, and actual just that's just how it's going. So donations are a huge part, and I think playing that smartly is I know some streamers will just ignore donations sometimes because they're busy, or it's it's only like a few dollars or something. But I think being really appreciative for your donations and for your fans, doing that is something that is really smart to do, because it does mean a lot. And I think that's also very good. So that's another way is donations. And I mean, I know a lot of small streamers are afraid to put a donation link because they're like, oh, people aren't going to donate. But because that's what I thought at first when I first started. But you just gotta take a risk, know that just try it, and then that's just how the world works. You never know who's going to join your stream. I remember when I was really small, I was pulling 5 viewers, and someone randomly came in and donated $100, and it was the craziest thing in my life at the time. And it was I would have never known that. I almost didn't even have the donation set up, but obviously was really glad I did. So that was another way: donations, the platform purchases, the ad revenue. And also another ways to make revenue off the streaming and monetization is through merchandise. Merchandise is a really popular thing. I know a lot of content creators and stuff. It's really cool to represent. If you watch a specific person, and if you really want to support them, if you put out merchandise, your fans will want to get that. So I've done some merchandise in the past where I'll just say like I'm making cool merch that you guys can wear, and obviously that's really smart to drive revenue because it's just something your fans will want to do, and that is becoming definitely much easier now to really make merchandise. I know there's websites where they'll make a design for you if you go through them and use their website, and it's just really simple. And that's kind of what I did, and they did all the work for me when my merchandise. I didn't really have to do anything besides give them my logo and said, could you make these shirts? And they said yeah, and boom. So it's definitely easier than you think. And obviously with this, how this industry is just growing and rising tremendously, it just makes it more easier with this ways to make money in terms of the merchandise.
So I just want to backtrack a second and just talk about the in-stream purchases, like kind of like the ones that we see on Caffeine. Like, so do you see a lot of people using that in your chat? Like,
no, the digital items I think are a great way to get the stream all together, and it's definitely a cool idea that really not many other sites have really done with how it works. So I mean, with the digital items on Caffeine and how you kind of send them to the streamer, and it goes directly into the chat, and everyone obviously sees it. And what's really cool as well is normally when a digital item pops up, people will end up upvoting in the chat, and that just creates more hype and creates excitement for all the viewers there. And it's almost the effect where someone sends a digital item and you see that and you're like, man, maybe I should send one. And then it's really just the effect of kind of everyone doing it. And obviously it's super nice for the streamer as well too. So having that digital item system is really cool on Caffeine, especially when people do utilize it to its potential, and seeing the upvoting system in the chat as well is just really cool for everyone to get involved in that digital item kind of cool
yeah,
thing.
I like it a lot. It's like kind of like a step beyond the whole like text to speech thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a new form of like interaction in the chat, and I really enjoy that. How long? I also have a question about merch. In all honesty, how long before you kind of like took that jump where you're like, maybe I should start making merch?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because I mean, definitely when you're first starting streaming, it's like, when do you don't want to, like, you may be bigger than you think you are, in other words. So I know when I first was doing merch, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do merch. Like, I feel like no one's going to buy it. Just not really. I just don't want to do it. I'm almost afraid no one's going to buy it. And I don't know. I think at the time when I did it, I think I hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I decided to do it. And I just said, you know what, I'll just do it. Worst case, no one gets it. So I do it, and I did it, threw myself out there, and it was so successful. Tons of purchases and a lot of orders, and it was just really successful overall for me. So I think that was another thing where I was a little bit nervous at first, but I took the leap of faith, I guess, and it really did turn out well. So don't be afraid to do that, kind of like as I talked about before.
What was the design?
I did so my name is Pack Puncher. That's kind of what the online name. So I did a fist and then wrote Pack on the fist, PACK, and put that in the shirt. And then I wrote on the back of the shirt hashtag Pack Puncher Army, which is kind of what I call the community I had got. So yeah, and I might be bringing that merch line back soon. So we'll see.
Have you ever like run into a fan?
Yeah, I actually ran into a fan this past summer, and I was in a mall and ran into a fan, and I knew he was a fan because he was wearing my merch, literally wearing my merchandise, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, because I saw someone that recognized me, but also they were wearing one of my T-shirts, which is super cool, and especially because it was just an idea of my head to do the merch, and obviously it turned out really well. So
yeah, so there's definitely obviously that, like, we can close the book on that. There's way more than ad revenue out 100%. There. So don't be afraid to try new avenues to kind of like, make like a more consistent, more vibrant career out of this, So let's step into talking point 3, because I think this is probably one of the most important things, building a schedule. So what are your thoughts on building a schedule as a streamer and how it affects your overall stream? That's
definitely a good point. When I get this asked more than probably any question when I'm streaming is, how do I become a good streamer? How to become a successful streamer? What do? I want to start streaming. And my main advice to every single person who asks me that is to be consistent. Being consistent is definitely key to growing your brand, your stream, and everything. Because that's with today's world, how busy lives are with everyone, with people in school, their jobs, they got so much free time, or not so much free time, but so much busy lives. It's if you can find where people have the time in their day to make it into your live stream, it's definitely a really good point to address. So being consistent with the schedule is so smart. I know with me on Caffeine, I didn't really have a super strict schedule in my first year of streaming, and I was going into kind of like my second year of into the Caffeine streaming, and I kind of took a few weeks off just so I could figure out a schedule for myself, because I knew that if I, even if I didn't stream for a while, if I came back with a really strict schedule that I stood to and let everyone know, it'd be really successful for me. And I've been streaming with that new schedule now, and it's been awesome. So definitely having a schedule is really good for just, keeping your viewers knowing when you're going to go live, and it also becomes like a part of their daily routine, if you will. I stream specifically on every single Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I feel like all my viewers know that, because I address it a lot, because it is important. It is important to keep bringing that up, and people just know that, boom, if it's this day at that time, this streamer that I watch is going to be live. And I think for me, consistency was the biggest thing for my career, especially back when I first did my main growing into like exploding into, I guess, the streaming world, is I streamed every single weekday at 8 p.m. Eastern on the dot. And that's what I did back in high school. I'd get home from basketball practice and boom, I went live. Every single day. And that just that consistency, you just see the numbers just, they just go up, because it's like snowball effect, where the snowball starts small and it goes down the hill and just gets bigger and bigger. And that's exactly what doing a consistent stream schedule will do to you, is create that, just increase of viewers and followers, and just overall like the community that you're growing. So consistency is key. Don't do your best to stick to the schedule as well, because you don't want to have like an unreliant one. So don't go crazy and say every single day I'm going to be here at 8 p.m. if you can't be there at 8 p.m. Do what you think is best for you. So being consistent is good with that, with the schedule.
Somebody said in the chat too that true. I even have alarms for when your streams go live.
Yeah, so. It's very true to keep the consistency there.
So beyond that, of course, like schedule and consistency is important, but promoting that on social platforms, like as well, always kind of like saying when you're going live. So like, do you personally like always post when you're going live?
Yeah, so I pretty much when I go live, it's very smart to hit all the social medias that I talked about before, because your audience as a streamer can be over many different different social media sites and different apps and stuff. So normally when I go live on Caffeine, I'll just tweet out and say, hey, I'm going live on Caffeine, put a link. And obviously that drives a lot of people into the stream, and it just lets people know that, maybe if the notifications, someone turned off notifications on accident, or someone had do not disturb on their phone, they know that when they see that on another platform, like Twitter or something, they'll see like, oh, okay, he's live, I'll go check out his stream. Same with Instagram as well, another good platform that I use just to kind of promote my streams and let people know that I'm live, because a lot of times people will say like, oh, I would have been here, but I just didn't know that you were live. So hitting those social promotions is smart, so that people do know that you're live and they come in there, and obviously help your stream grow. So I personally use Twitter and Instagram the most to kind of promote my streams, and sometimes I'll use YouTube as well, just to say, hey, I'm live on Caffeine or something, head on over.
So I think also one of the interesting things people don't take into account when streaming, because like you're always kind of thinking within your own time zone. Mm-hmm. But I have friends who started streaming, and then they realized that their time zone actually didn't work for them. You know what I mean? So they started streaming accounting for other people's time zones. I have a friend who goes live at 2 a.m. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. Time zones are a really, really big part of streaming and scheduling wise as well. Because, the world is a big place, and there's, different time in the world. There's different times everywhere across the world, which still blows my mind how that works, but that's just how it is. So I know for me, definitely, being smart to different time zones. Like I know when I go live, I don't say I'm live at 8 p.m. I say I'm live at 8 p.m. Eastern on the dot. And I make sure to say the Eastern part. And the reason I do that, and the reason I personally chose my time of 8 p.m. is I know that that's 5 p.m. On the Pacific Coast in the California time. That's when people are just getting home from school or something, or just getting home from work. So being smart to all the different time zones is definitely really good, and that's kind of why I chose mine. When I first started streaming, I remember I would stream late into the night, because all the big streamers, I didn't like how they took all the viewers, and they just really took over the platform. So I would wait till later in the night, and I'd stream when no one else was on. So I was like the number one streamer, even though I didn't have as many viewers, but I was the top streamer. But it was later, and I hit all the different time zones. So I had a definitely more diverse audience with going late into the night. And seeing kind of building my base from that. And then obviously those people ended up just coming out throughout the day, and then I made my stream schedule kind of revolved around what I wanted to do. And also as well, I know Fortnite, when they do their updates, they do the updates at the most random times in the night at like 4 a.m. Eastern. And I normally do those streams every time there's a new update on Fortnite. I normally cover it at 4 a.m. And when I do those streams, they do actually really, really well because, at 4 a.m., obviously that's like way in the middle of the night for people in the United States. But all across the world, I get so many diverse viewers. So when I do those streams, it's really actually really cool to see the chat, how many different people are across the world and how spread out they are. Another thing as well is I know donations come in, and then donations are in different currencies. They're not in my normal US dollar currency. I'm getting all these different currencies, which is cool just to prove that time zones are a huge thing. And if a time zone isn't working for you, don't be afraid to try something else and try different times, because maybe that just wasn't the time for you, and just don't be afraid to try out other things. So time zones is a great thing to keep in mind when choosing your schedule, because like I said, everyone is on different time zones. So if you can keep it to what is good, it works. So.
All right, great. I think these talking points are definitely things that like help people kind of like really bring their brand to the next level and kind of like take advantage of creating new audiences and new opportunities to kind of like turn this into a full-time career. Let's move on to some like Q&A questions here. I have some prepared ones here. If anybody's in chat and they want to leave a question to be asked on stream, make sure to throw those in right now. Maybe you're a streamer who's just starting out right now. Maybe you're streaming very consistently, and maybe you have a question about how to kind of evolve an aspect of your streaming, and maybe you don't know the best way to do it. This is your opportunity to ask somebody who's very experienced in this. So first question, right off the top. So obviously streaming is such a saturated space. There's so many different kinds of streamers out there, all in different genres. Do you think that there's a streamer out there right now that's doing something revolutionary with their brand, or maybe one that you take a lot of inspiration from?
I think for me, like the biggest one that comes to my mind when I think of, dang, he's really going revolutionary, really changing the way streaming is, and kind of like a role model, is definitely Ninja. Ninja has done so many things with the whole streaming industry and stuff. Recently, he just did a platform change from switching his streaming sites to a more kind of, I guess, smaller up and coming platform, which I think is awesome, because there's so many different platforms out there, and there's so much growth to be made from that. So seeing Ninja do that transition to a new platform was really cool and inspiring as well, I think, for people to try something new as well. But also I know Ninja I think it was like March 2018, Ninja did his collaboration with Drake when he played Fortnite. And I thought that was one of the coolest things ever that a streamer has done, because it did so many things for the whole streaming industry as a whole, with kind of crossing the two universes of, the normal mainstream media with Drake, with Ninja, obviously just a streamer at the time, but they came over, and I feel like it's changed it forever. And I feel like what he's done is just helping merge the two industries together, which I feel like it's about time. The gaming and streaming is such a popular industry that it's only going to keep growing. So it's only a matter of time before this kind of people realize how important gaming and streaming is. So I feel like Ninja has definitely helped a lot in terms of making it more mainstream, and I feel like he's represented the whole gaming streaming industry well when going on to the crossovers in terms of different medias.
So what's one problem that you consistently run into while live streaming? I mean, there's so many different things that can go wrong, and both like when you're live and when you're not live. Is there a problem that stands out for you that you have to overcome like fairly often? Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest problem for me, especially when I was first starting, is the technical issues, where there's things with your PC that maybe not be going right. There may be a sound went out or something went wrong, something that you didn't account for before you started streaming, whether that's an internet connection or something that, quite honestly, you don't have a lot of control in. And that's definitely one of the most frustrating things as a streamer, because a lot of times there's nothing you can really do besides wait it out, hope that the internet gets better, or just hope that the servers get better on whatever you're doing. So that definitely is pretty annoying in terms of that, just running into that problem of something that you can't control with technical issues. I think now I've definitely gotten better with, avoiding those technical problems. But I know when I first started streaming, I lived in my parents' house, and I had my two sisters who'd always watch Netflix on the Wi-Fi, and they'd always tear down the Wi-Fi when I'm trying to stream. And I could literally tell when they watched Netflix, because my stream would start having lag spikes. And so I'd run out of my stream room, go into my sister's room, and say, "What are you doing?" And there she's on her iPad watching Netflix. And I'm like, "Please, not right now, I'm streaming."
So that's just one of the things that like I've had to overcome, just the technical issues. And I feel like thankfully with today's technology, how it is improving, it's making those issues less common, but they're still going to happen. That's just how it works. Nothing's ever perfect. So that's definitely one problem I run into when live streaming, is just the technical aspects, that stuff you can't really handle. And I think the only other problem that I'd mention, like that I consistently run into live streaming, and I think every streamer does, is just the negativity that happens on the internet, and that tends to happen in a live stream chat. And I know myself, my like motto is to always be positive and turn every situation into a positive one. So having that negativity is, I think it's best to like avoid it as much as you can, and just know that like it's gonna happen. And unfortunately, people tend to, people can be a different person when they're behind a keyboard or on their phone or on the internet. So it's just, people are more rude, I guess, more negative. So I think that's just something it's gonna happen, and you just gotta not worry about it too much, and just keep your head good, and be positive at the end of the day. So definitely problems that you run into, but at the end of the day, you got to overcome it, and that's what being a streamer is.
Great. So obviously you use a lot of different like social media platforms. Which one do you think is the most important?
Social media platforms. I mean, honestly, using all the social media platforms is very important to your brand, because there's so many different audiences out there. But for me personally, I think Twitter is very important with with connecting with my audience. I know with connecting with other audiences similar. So like if let's say Fortnite tweets out something, if I respond to Fortnite's tweet, I'm going to get all the Fortnite followers, but then they're going to see my tweet as well, which will in turn kind of create, more promotion for my brand itself. So just like, I don't know, using those different genres on specific sites help a lot. So I think Twitter, when I do that, is really smart, and I don't know, putting stuff out there is good. So yeah.
So do you see any like clear threats to the live streaming ecosystem? I mean, there's like so many different things that happen every single day, and there's, or do you kind of, or maybe like even throw that out, do you think like live streaming is kind of just consistently on the up and up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for the most part, live streaming is definitely on the up and up, and I feel like it's going to continue to increase in popularity and in growth and successfulness across all boards. And I think everything's on track for good things in terms of, everything having more attention onto this world. I think the only really thing in my head that's like, oh, this could be an issue is the whole legal issues with things. I know a lot of these things, like the COPPA Act is going on right now with like people freaking out over like, I think people under the age of 13 like aren't allowed to watch specific content. I know that Fortnite, for example, they're rumored to add a new setting to their game where you have to enter your birth date into order playing the game. Like you have to be 13 or older. So I know that's just something that could possibly affect the whole streaming industry, is just how the government does handle those legalities when it comes to that. Besides that though, I think everything's on the up and up, and I feel like it's really gonna, really keep improving for years to come. So yeah.
So obviously we went over some like do's and don'ts earlier, and I kind of just want to like hammer into that just one last time. You listed some do's and don'ts earlier, but what do you think is the number one don't do this aspect of streaming? Like there's a lot of things that you can do to hurt your brand, but what's the one that everybody should avoid the most?
I think my biggest don't, and I don't know if this is like a correct answer to the question, but definitely my biggest don't do is kind of how I mentioned earlier, is just don't give up, because there are so many things that can happen in the stream, whether that you do have some technical issues or you do have some negativity in the live stream chat. Like you just got to push through it, don't give up, and know that, you're there. And it will get better. And then obviously the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So I think that's one thing, no matter how small or how big you are, not giving up. And if you truly are passionate for this career and this live streaming stuff, stick with it, because it will get better. And that's normally how it does. I know I can tell you, after doing it for 4 years, there's been multiple times where I'm just like, this is not going to go well. I don't know how it's going to get better. And it does. Like, if that's just how it works. It gets better. And I'm like, okay, now we're good again. And that's just how life works, and that's the same way it is with streaming. So number one, don't give up. If you're really passionate about it, keep pursuing your dreams, and just keep grinding away.
I think we're going to jump into some chat questions right now. So if anybody has some questions, let's throw those in the chat, and we'll make sure that those get answered. So first up off the bat, earlier, Grat the Rat asked, how have you ever been involved in a brand deal, and how did that like actually like first happened? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
starting off, like there's just nobody knows exactly, like this is a totally new world. Is like you're gaming on the internet one day and then a brand wants to work with you.
Yeah.
It's got to be strange. Can you just like walk us through like how like something like that even happens?
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest things that I haven't touched on yet is like the brand deal aspect of streaming, which a lot of times goes behind the scenes, but it's a whole new era with these brand deals and these sponsors. And that all goes to this whole industry is just becoming more and more popular, and these brands are starting to see that. They're starting to see how increasing the industry is, and they're like, okay, maybe we should start contacting creators and streamers and seeing what we can do. I remember my first brand deal happened. I just graduated high school like a week before, and a brand approached me and said, hey, we want to pay you this amount of money if you talk about us in a video. And I used the brand all the time before even the sponsorship. So I'm like, of course I'll do this brand deal. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm doing what I do, and all I have to do is just say I like your products, which I already do, like for sure. So definitely a really cool moment for me was seeing that. And obviously, doing that brand deal was really cool. But I think the coolest thing about brand deals is that how much, for at least in my experience, in the past 2 years, they've evolved with all these different companies and brand deals that I'm currently getting to myself, where I see and I look at it and I think to myself, there's no way this brand deal was even a thing 2 years ago, because like I said, the industry is just evolving more and more. So brand deals are becoming more and more common. They're becoming more easier to work with and more common, which just makes it an overall better experience. So brand deals, definitely be open to them. Obviously be wary on, obviously some brands you got to stay true to your brand, kind of how I mentioned earlier. So if it's something you don't believe in, I know there was a couple deals where I'm like, this is like really good. This could be really good money. This could be like an awesome brand deal. And like, yeah, it'd be nice. But like, quite honestly, I don't like the product that much and I don't really use it that much. So I ended up turning it down. And I think that's kind of how I mentioned earlier, is you do have to be true to yourself and true to your brand. And if something isn't, you got to, voice that. And obviously, I missed that brand deal and I didn't pursue it, but like I'm okay with that, because it just wasn't my what I envisioned for myself and something I wouldn't be happy promoting. So brand deals are definitely something that's something that is out there, and I feel like 2 years time from now it's just gonna be a crazy amount and so common. So yeah, brand deals definitely another way to monetize your streams.
So Captain Pellegro in stream had two really, really good questions. The first one, who is your streamer Mount Rushmore? So meaning like if you had to put like the faces of like 4 streamers on like the side of a mountain, who would those be, as like just the like these guys are the greats? This is
like
the Hall
that
of
question.
Fame here.
Yeah. I won't include myself because I'll just go through others, but I would put on the Mount Rushmore Ninja on one of them. I'd put Dr. Disrespect on another one. I think he does a great job of putting on a persona on his streams, an almost character, if you will. So Ninja, Dr. Disrespect. I put Nick A30 on there because I feel like really does resemble a good kid-friendly, like kind of available for all ages streaming. And then the fourth one, I'd probably put Shroud, I think Shroud, who's just been doing it for a while. So I think I'd put those 4 on my Mount Rushmore of streaming. Ninja, Dr. Disrespect, Nick A30, and Shroud would be my 4 Mount Rushmore.
Nice. Also from Captain Pellegro, great question. If you could do one thing better, what would it be?
One thing better. I think for me, not raging as much. I know recently I've been playing Fortnite for a while and just getting more and more rage inducing. So I want to stop getting angry at the game as much more, because at the end of the day, it is just a game. So I think that'd be something I'd do better, is just relax a little bit more, which I'm trying to work on. And then also kind of answering that as well is just be better at the game. If I could just be super duper good at Fortnite, that'd be kind of nice. But at the end of the day, I don't really have the time and effort to do all that stuff. But yeah.
We got another good question here from Fusey. What is the best way to keep active with your viewers when you're off stream?
Best way to keep active with your viewers while off stream is definitely utilizing the social medias. I feel like sometimes if you're unsure about where your audience is, don't be afraid to ask, hey, when you're streaming, like, where are you guys mostly on? And if your audience, don't be afraid to ask them, and people will respond, hey, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Snapchat, and take note of that and do your best to build your brands on other platforms so you can let people know that. So keeping active on all social media is really smart to address all different points of your stream when you're not streaming, because Obviously, there's a lot of work going on in streaming when you're actually behind the camera and you're on the live button, but a lot of work does go behind the scenes that you wouldn't really think about. And that's one of the points there is the social media promotion and how you utilize those different sites to hype up your stream and make it more exciting when you're not even live.
Do you use Discord?
I used to use Discord a little bit. Discord's definitely a good way, and quite honestly, I probably should get back into Discord more. But Discord is definitely another good way to kind of grow your community and let people know about it.
So this question is from Panda Gaming YT200. How many subscribers or followers do you think you need before you make that jump from streaming as a hobby to streaming being something full-time for you? Like, when did you personally make that jump?
For me, I personally made that jump when I hit 1 million subscribers. And I think for me, like I had everything kind of going with the whole college career path and the normal path. So I feel like I waited a little bit longer than normal, because I do have a lot of friends who have, 200,000 subscribers, 800,000 subscribers, 500,000, and they did the jump as well. But for me, it was 1 million subscribers. I just graduated high school, and I saw that number with the extra zero of 1 million, and I'm like, okay, this is something I want to do full time. And obviously I knew that at my heart I was passionate about it and I want to continue pursuing it. So I decided, take a year off from school and do it. And obviously one of the best decisions of my life, because I love it now, and now I'm really truly doing it full time. So that was the number for me. But I think it's one of those questions that it's situational. Every single person has to ask that in their head, and the answer is going to vary for each and every person. But only you know the correct answer of when you feel like you have the jump to take it full time and take it to the next level. So, good question though. Good question.
Quinn V in the chat asked earlier, how do you keep things fresh when playing the same game for like so long? I mean, it's got to be fatiguing.
Yeah, no,
at one point.
That's a really good question, because I know, my case, I've been doing Fortnite for 2 years straight now. Thankfully with Fortnite, they've done a pretty good job of keeping the content fresh, because that's kind of their job as well. And I've been doing that. But like right now, the past like 2 months of Fortnite's been really dry with not a lot of content. So I've been trying to, think of new ways and trying to be creative with ways to not keep it the same old. And that's the same with the audience, because if you do the same thing over and over again, people are going to get bored of it. That's just how the world works. So trying to adapt and quite honestly, take risks with if you have an idea, don't be afraid to try it out, because it could be very, very successful. That's kind of how I was with Fortnite. I didn't really want to switch to Fortnite, and I did, and it was super, a risk I didn't want to take, but I did, and obviously super glad I did. So yeah.
There's also a good question from Fusey in the chat. Do you consider yourself a pro player or a content creator? And like, in also along with that, like, what do you think the key differences are?
That's a good question, because I think now, or I'll answer it first. I think of myself more as a content creator. I think back in Call of Duty, I feel like I was a little bit more, I was a little in the middle, a little content creator and a pro player, because I feel like I did well with the whole Call of Duty thing. But I think with Fortnite, I'm definitely more on the content creator side and the online like personality. But the thing that makes it so difficult to choose between the two now is because so many of these pro players are starting up their streams and becoming content creators. So they're streaming and becoming a pro player, but also like being a content creator as well. So I think you just have to recognize that for yourself. Know yourself better than anyone, so you got to know where you lie in that. And if the pro player line isn't up for you, then you can go to the content creator side. So I think it's something that you go with yourself, and you figure it out from there.
Do you think career-wise, if like you were more a pro player rather than a content creator, like your brand opportunities would be different, or the way you interact with your followers would be different?
Yes, I do. I think generally with pro players, from what I see, it's definitely more disengaged with their audience, which personally I don't like, and that's I think also why I wouldn't be a pro player, is because I feel like they're so focused on the game, and quite honestly, they don't have to be focused on their audience, because they're focused on that tournament coming up. They're focused on the scrimming they have to do off stream. So a lot of the things that like a pro player would do just isn't in touch with their audience, which isn't what I mentioned earlier about how you really want to be connected with your audience and keep the community honest with you and them. So I feel like pro players don't do that as much because they have other things to worry about, which makes sense. And that's why I think I definitely chose the content creator side more, because I do enjoy the transparency and keeping it honest with the viewers on both sides.
Teamer Steve in the chat asked, streamer awareness seems kind of like a rough thing to keep up with. Like, does mental multitasking get easier over time as a streamer? I mean, you have to focus on the game, you have to focus on chat, you have to focus on shouting out this, shouting out that. You know what I mean? Does it get easier over time?
It definitely does get easier over time. And I know for me, when I first started, one of the things I did to help myself and really listen to those lines of it gets easier over time was I forced myself every time I had a new subscriber on YouTube, and I did it every single time I had a new subscriber, which would happen pretty common when I did streams at first, is I would make sure I'd shout them out. And I did a thing where I'd shout out every single new subscriber I had, every single new person. And it was really rough at first, really difficult to manage, and there was times where I'd die in the game, but I knew that like I was with perseverance and sticking with it and just getting better at it, practice makes perfect, and I just kept practicing it. It did get easier, and now I'm to the point where I can talk to chat, I can play the game, and I could also be drinking a drink or something. So I think it definitely is just practice, because that's how it works. But it definitely does get easier.
Panda Gaming asks, where do you see yourself in the next year? You know, like also just like pose it, where were you 1 year ago?
Yeah.
Just to see like the full scope of like evolution of your stream.
Yeah, no, I mean, a year ago I was looking for a new platform to stream on. I was looking for a new step in my career, and obviously I chose to stream on Caffeine, one of the greatest decisions I made. But I mean, a year ago I was still searching where to go, and obviously now a year later I'm on a whole nother platform, an up and coming platform that I feel like has a lot of potential and really will see some big things in the next year. So with that being said, I think a lot of big things will happen with, hopefully Caffeine in the next year, and obviously with myself being aligned with them and being on the platform, seeing some good things there. But a year from now, I mean, it's hard to think about that, because a year ago, I would have never guessed I would have done all this stuff in the past year. So it's like, I don't really know exactly, but I'm going to be along for the ride and, keep my positivity going and keep my grind attitude and with it as well. But yeah, no, I'm hoping for some big things, and I am excited to see just how popular this gaming and streaming industry is getting. It just makes me really excited for the future, and I'm doing my best to stay on top of it while I can, so I can really capitalize once it continues to go to the next levels.
Nice. Is there anything that like you hope will be added?
Anything I like hope. Do you mean like Caffeine, or just like in terms of?
Yeah, just like, you know what I mean. Like, is there something that We'll move on to. We'll come back to that one. Do you think like choosing full-time streaming has affected your like personal social life, and like do you kind of like sometimes think that like, man, I wish I had more time to hang out with like just my IRL friends? Like obviously like you have like stream friends and everything like that. Is there a way to kind of balance that?
The balance, I'll tell you honestly, the balance is difficult. I mean, that's just how it works. I know when I was first growing and stuff and first getting out there, like there was, I mean, back in high school where my mom was forcing me, if I didn't have an A or B in every class, I wasn't able to stream, so I had to keep my grades up. I was playing varsity basketball, and I also wanted to, grow my stream every day. And it was difficult because I probably averaged 4 or 5 hours of sleep every night because it was kind of worth it. So I'm not gonna say it's easy, and I'm not gonna say it's like it's just you can balance it all, because it is difficult and you do have to make some tough decisions. But obviously you gotta know if you're truly passionate about something or not. And I think with time, you can definitely balance it out, and balance is very important. There's times where with exercise, with people, with relationships, and with streaming, you got to find that perfect balance, which may take a little time to get used to. I know a lot of my streamer friends who have gone through the difficulties of trying to balance it, and things just don't work out. But that does make you a stronger person at the end of the day, going through those situations where you might have made the wrong decision, but hopefully you don't make that same mistake again. So. Yeah, and balance is a big thing, and I think just do your best to even them out, and know what's true to you, and know what you're really passionate about, and keep that in mind.
Here's a great question from Teamer Steve. When you're offline, how hard is it to set aside the persona, or is it even a persona of Pack-a-Puncher, and be yourself when you're off stream? Yeah,
that's a good thing, and thankfully I went back to earlier how I do my best to stay honest and be transparent with my audience and myself. It makes it easier, so when I'm off stream it's not entirely different, but I definitely am less, I feel like less hyper, less like energetic when I'm off stream, because I don't really have an audience as much. So it's not really like a switch that goes on and off, but there's definitely like a I don't know, like a difference between the two, Pack-a-Puncher and Seth. So, I mean, yeah, there is, but there also isn't. And you have to keep that balance, because there's times where I'm hanging out with my in real life friends, and I do have to say, all right, I gotta go back home and stream. I gotta go do this. Something just came out, and it's just like spur of the moments. But there's also other times where I'm hanging out with them, and I'm saying something just came out, but like, no, I need to stay here. I need to keep my relationships with them good, and just like do my real in real life stuff off the stream stuff.
So as a full-time streamer, obviously, like you're saying, like, do you still get like free time to yourself, or do you kind of also like, do you commit that 40 hours a week almost of like full-time grinding? You know what I mean? Even when you're off stream, you're thinking about like, okay, maybe I'll do this on this stream this week.
I think I definitely did that earlier in my career. I did that better with like managing that, because and like forcing myself to. I feel like now getting lazy is really easy to come by. So I feel like I need to get back in that mindset of really doing it all the time and thinking of it, because that's honestly that is the way to really grow. Because unfortunately in this streaming industry, it is a dog eat dog world. Whereas if you take a night off, there's someone there. There's someone there right behind you streaming when you're not, and unfortunately that's how it works. It is a competitive area, and that's the decision you have to make. So I think keeping the balance is good, but also knowing that you gotta stay consistent with it, and yeah. So,
do you have any like streamer friends that helped you at like a time like earlier in your career that come to mind, where like, what I mean, in like figuring out like your schedule, or figuring out some aspect of your stream and like evolving it to be next level?
I think for me, oddly enough, like I think in terms of like actual advice from other people, it didn't really come from my streamer friends, but more my in real life friends, surprisingly enough, where they really had, I guess because they had a larger perspective and of everything, and they could really gave me good advice. And I think a lot of my friends gave me I guess the best advice my friends ever gave me is when I was deciding to go full time or not, and go to college or go do YouTube. And I have a group chat of 13 guys on the 13th, and I asked them, hey, what do you guys think? Should I do this full time, or should I just quit it and go to college? 6 of them said go to college. 6 of them said do it full time. And it almost made me really say like, okay, this is my decision at the end of the day, and I know myself more than anyone, and obviously I made the decision to do it full time. Best decision of my life. So that was probably the closest thing of like having my friends make decisions for me. But there's also been times where they've been giving me advice on what to do, what not to do, and just advice with stuff like that. Because I feel like having different having inputs from other people is just having more eyes and more brains helping you out at the end of the day. So like having friends and having minds that are able to help you is always really good to get more perspectives on the situation, whether that's stream schedule, content you're making, or anything. So definitely really smart to align yourself with other people, whether that's in real life or just through the internet, but give multiple perspectives on each and every one of your situations.
Does the name Gavin Pack come to mind?
Yeah. So like, wait, Gavin.
Somebody in the chat said, shout out Gavin Pack. He's always been there for you.
Yeah, so my good friend Gavin, he's been he's done, I've done a lot of stuff with him in terms of like my streams, and he's like a good in real life friend of mine, and I bring him into the streams a lot. We run duos in Fortnite, and he's definitely been good. And he's helped run my Instagram as well, and he just helps me, I guess, put things in a different perspective, which is good, because I'm always full eyes in on what I'm doing, and he just provides an outside, like a viewer's look, which I think is always really good. So shout out to Gavin for always being there to help that out.
Do you think, that's a good question from Dan043. Do you think family could affect what a content creator makes or says? Do you like keep like that in mind ever?
Like a person, like a streamer's family, or like the person? Yeah, I mean, I know for me, like my family was really, I know a lot of people say when they're trying to become a streamer that their parents don't want them to do it, or their people aren't really fully happy with what they're doing. And I know for me, I went through that super immensely, with my mom being like the biggest hater of video games growing up. And honestly, I think that's the reason I do what I do for a living now, is because she, all my friends had Xboxes, and I was the only one who didn't have one. So 8th grade or 7th grade year, I wrote a 30-slide PowerPoint of why I should be able to get an Xbox and why I should be able to buy one. And I presented it to my parents, said this is why I should get an Xbox. And my mom came back and said, no Xbox for you. That's not going to happen. And it just made me want to play even more. And obviously the next year, going like I think it was 8th grade, almost to high school, I finally got an Xbox. And then I just kind of went with it. But my mom still limited me to only 30 minutes a night with playing the games. So it made it difficult, definitely having the family's input. Obviously, your family does want the best for you, and I think that's really important to remind yourself as a parent. They really want you to succeed, and they want you to do the best that they think. And sometimes you just got to be honest with them and explain to them your situation. I think for me, explaining to my parents, what I was doing helped a lot. I know my biggest jump for going into full time was telling my parents about this. And I tell us this story a lot because I go into their room. It was 11 p.m. on a Sunday night, 3 days before graduation. And it was a 2-hour conversation with me saying like, hey, I'm not going to go to college like I planned, and I'm going to do this full time. The first hour was them like yelling at me saying like, you can't do this. Like what? And the second hour was them saying, okay, like you're reasonable with us. You're honest with us. And you're telling us as it is. And we're going to be there to support you with whatever you want to do. So I think that's one thing, is being honest with your family, and just, they do want the best for you, and keep that in mind when everything's said and done. So.
I think that's a great 30 minutes. Damn, that's like one.
Oh, dude,
that's like one game of Fortnite.
Yeah, like nowadays, like literally could get like maybe 1 or 2 in. So it was rough back in the day, but thankfully now I'm on my own doing this full time, and I can play video games as much as I want. But now, oddly enough, I don't even want to play them as much as I did. So it's like, because I wasn't allowed to play the video games, it made me want to play it more. So thank you, Mom, for restricting me, which led to where I am today. So shout out to my mom.
Shout out to Mom. All right, I think we're going to end it up there. So why don't you take us out, all right?
Yeah, all right, let's do it.
So where can we follow you on socials? Where can we see you live stream? Where can we see you game? Let us know.
Good question. So Twitter at PackAPuncherYT, YouTube or Instagram at PackAPuncherYT. I stream on Caffeine every single Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget the time zone. 8 p.m. Eastern is when I stream on there. I also do create content on YouTube as well, so you can also find me on there. On YouTube, creating videos or streaming on there as well. So PackAPuncher is the name, and yeah, don't forget it, because we're gonna be out here taking over this streaming world, hopefully. As it grows more and more in the future. So thank you guys for watching everything. This is awesome. And yeah, are we good and everything?
Yeah, we're all good. All right.
Awesome.
Have a good one, guys. Later.